I'm gonna be your fast formula trainer, and I'll be going through all the technical side, and we'll discuss each functionality of the all the effects of the fast formulas. So in today's session, we're gonna discuss about fast formula introduction and the uses of fast formulas, and the types of fast formulas, the syntax of the fast formulas. So we'll discuss more on the basic side of the fast formulas in today's session, and also we'll try to read few of the existing fast formulas. So this course is basically designed for the HM consultants who are working in most of the modules, who are already having the background of most of the fusion spaces, most of the fusion modules, such as compensation, benefits, payroll, absence or time on labor. So I have mentioned the module names because these are the modules which majorly uses fast formulas in the functional setup and to read the values, to determine the uh, values. And in this uh, session, after this session, you will be comfortable to use fast formulas, to write your own fast formulas, and to read the fast formulas, read the existing fast formulas. So let's see the fast formula overview. So fast formula enables you to write formulas using normal basic English words and using the database items. So database items are generally the Oracle delivered values, which back in the background. So this database item will be used to fetch the values from the from the backend database So this database item is delivered by Oracle. So you call this database item to fetch the values from the backend database. So we'll see in detail in the further session. So basically, fast formula is to write writing a fast formula is by using the normal English words and database item, and by using the basic mathematical functions. And also, fast formula delivers its own functions, its own global variables. So we can use that to build the fast formulas. And writing of generic expressions for any calculations and comparisons. So you may want to repeat the different input values. So fast formulas allows the usage of input values. So, and it totally depends on the formula types. So input values are actually totally based on the formula types. So it differs from one formula type to other formula type. So we'll see what exactly the formula type and what exactly the input values are. So let's see the introduction of Oracle fast formulas. So why exactly fast formulas are used? You get this question. Fast formula, like I heard that many Oracle HCM folks tell that fast formula is little complex and fast formula is more involves coding. You should be having SQL background. So I don't think so. Those things are necessary because fast formulas uh, doesn't involve SQL coding. It's a normal basic coding. It's more familiar to your C language. So it just involves your uh, English words and the database item and the formulas. So if you're familiar with how to use that formulas, how to write if and else statement, and how to use your calculation, if you know the syntax, then you can easily build any format of fast formula. So fast formula is one of the simple way uh, to build to as I mentioned, fast formula is the simple way of writing the formulas using the English words and the mathematical operators. And fast formula makes use of the database item as well as the basic mathematical functions for the calculation purpose. And fast formulas can take the input value. That is totally depends on the formula types. So you can use the input variables or you can skip the input values. The formulas can be generic expressions that may represent a calculation use or comparison use case, and the same can be repeated with the different input values. So you can use the formula expression for a calculation purpose or to determine any specific value. So it totally depends on the different modules. For example, in payroll, you use fast formulas to get a payroll calculations. So to do the calculations, you call the fast formula, or to process any element, or to skip any processing of an element. So you use fast formulas. So in the fast formula, you focus on the calculation part, that is the mathematical functions. So similarly, a couple of the areas you use fast formulas to skip the calculation or to skip an associate. So in that case, you just use like normal English words. You just use if one else condition. So it totally depends on the requirement. The fast formula executes within application specific execution context. So fast formula, so after building the fast formula, you need to attach this fast formula somewhere within the application. So you need to call that fast formula, and fast formula will return a final value. After doing all the calculations, it will return a final value. So you need to consume that value within some application. So that application might be your payroll, application might be your benefits or absence or time and labor. So you need to you need to call the fast formula in specific applications. And calling application sets execution context. So the context here is actually values. So when you call a fast formula, so your the application, for example, let's take an example of absence. So when you call a fast formula from an absence application, you that absence application sends couple of values to the fast formulas. It's like a binding variable to execute the database items. So for example, so let's take an example of an absence accrual formula. So this absence accrual formula, you attach the absence accrual formula in the functional setup page, and when you execute the accrual, so it will identify for its particular associate, because you're not hard coding any associate in a formula, right? So how it is exactly identifying for one particular associate, that is through context. So it reads the value from your application and it will execute for that one particular person, and it will return the value. So that is the context. That is totally depends on the application. So that application will take care of it. Application will handle the reading of value. And calling application passes inputs to formulas. So formulas does the processing and returns the result to the calling application. So this passing of input values to formulas happens through context. So you can use that values within the fast formula using input values. So we'll see in detail of what exactly the context, what exactly the input, uh, or the how to what exactly the return statement. So all those things in our next slides. Yeah, fast formula types. So fast formula types determines how the fast formula can be, which rule about inputs and outputs apply, and what are the contexts that are automatically available for the fast formula. So fast formulas, for all the fast formulas, you need to determine the formula types first. So the formula types will be determined based on the module. If you're working in the payroll space, you need to determine the particular fast formula type, because formula types, this fast formulas you're gonna add in the application. So you need to see what kind of formula types that application is gonna read. So based on that, you need to build your fast formula type. So you need to, like, the basic structure of the fast formula is to determine the formula type first. So once you determine the formula type, you need to decide whether your application is sending any input variables, or you need to use any input variables within your fast formula or not. So the formula type is the first layer of building the fast formulas. So you need to determine the right formula type, and right formula type you can determine based on the application, or based on the application where you're gonna tag the fast formulas. You need to identify what kind of formula type is gonna required. And uses of fast formulas, as we already know, fast formula is having various usages. So fast formulas are used in payroll space, benefit space, human resource space, uh, compensation, absence management, and time and labor. It is having vast usage in all of these modules. So if you are a functional resource, if you need to configure any of these pages and payroll or benefits or any of these modules, so you need to call a fast formula. And uses, let's say the uses of fast formulas. Fast formulas can be used across the Fusion HCM product to perform. So like few of the advantages, few of the usages are like performing the payroll calculations. So like in the payroll side, so you create a element, and within the element, so the moment you create an element, so by default there will be a fast formula created in the backend, so in the fast formula page. So that fast formula will derive entire logic. So that fast formula is gonna calculate the final pay value for each payroll run. So it's totally fast formula which is doing all the work in the payroll calculations. So similarly, if you see the absence accrual, so in the absence side also we do have specific absence accrual formula type, so which will calculate the accruals, so which will give you the final value of balance. So how much accrual, how much, for example, for a sick leave, let's say for a sick leave plan, absence plan, so that will give you, that will calculate each time an associate applies for a leave. So that will recalculate the amount and that will give the final value in the screen. And similarly, absence duration, so that will give how much, if you are taking zero point 0.5 leave, if you're applying zero point 0.5 leave, that will calculate how many leaves left. That will actually allow you to apply for the particular duration or not. So you can do this checks in using fast formulas. So it's basically when you're applying anything in the backend, there will be a fast formula running, and you can control the calculations using fast formulas. Yeah. Similarly, fast formulas are used in the custom calculations of benefit administration, and fast formulas will be used in the element input value determination it's also used in the user-defined tables. So we do have vast usage of fast formulas. So that is totally like if you are working in any of the modules, like so we got to know that few of you are working the payroll space, few of you are an reporting side. So you can make use of those fast formulas to make the calculations or to make the value fetch uh, more accurately. So for example, in payroll space, so you can see this fast formula is having a usage in calculation of the element run results. It is having a usage in payroll results, and it will perform the legislative checks during the payroll run. So you can also restrict the payroll calculation run for one subset of an associate using the dynamic object groups, and for that you can write a fast formula, and also you can write a fast formula to skip the elements in the payroll calculation. So you can transform the data to third party source while uploading the payroll batch. So it's having vast advantage in the payroll space. So similarly, even in the benefit side, fast formulas can be used to determine the eligibility of an associate, to check the post-election edits. So you can actually give grant access to associates to do the post-election for a particular period using a fast formula. And using the fast formula, you can do the service calculations, you can coverage amount limits, you can actually add limits for the coverage elements in a benefit space. And if you see the compensation side, using fast formulas, you can specify the compensation worksheet defaults. You can you create a custom plan hierarchy. And similarly, in the absence side, you can do accrual terms, you can do the carryover rules, vesting criteria. So it's having vast usage. So now let's see what exactly, like what are the types of fast formulas we do have. How do we categorize the fast formulas? Right? So in fast formulas, we do have three different categories. One is predefined, one is generated, and one is user-defined formulas. So what exactly the predefined, generated, or user-defined? How do we categorize? So let's see that. So predefined formulas are the delivered formulas, so which you find in your application. So in all the Fusion environment, so the Oracle delivers couple of the fast formulas and those fast formulas are non-editable fast formulas. Oracle will completely maintain those fast formulas, such as in the payroll calculations or in the HR space. There are few of the fast formulas which Oracle delivers to all the customers. So those are called predefined fast formulas. So generated fast formulas. So these are the fast formulas which generate automatically within the application when you add any data in the application. For example, when you create an element, so by default, in the managed fast formulas, fast formula will get created. or similarly in the HM extract, when you create any of the data group or any of the record, by default, and automatically fast formula gets generated. So these are called as generated fast formulas. You will be having access to edit the generated fast formulas, uh, and you also will be having access to modify the generated fast formulas. And the third type of fast formulas are the user-defined fast formulas. So these are the formulas which users create. So users create fast formulas. So when generated or predefined fast formulas will not be sufficient to do the calculations. So when you want to write your own value or your own formula to do some calculations, so you can write your own fast formula and tag to the suitable application. So the best practice is not to test the predefined fast formulas. So most of the cases, Oracle will not give the edit access to the predefined fast formulas. Even if you get the edit access, so the best practice is not to edit the predefined fast formulas. That's because Oracle will be keep on applying the patches into your environment. So if you are doing any changes to the predefined, so that will be that will be gone. So you have to take the best practice is to create a new version of the predefined Oracle delivered fast formula and to make changes. Now we'll quickly see how exactly the fast formula looks in the application. So I'm actually navigating to the instance. So you can navigate the fast formulas in from two pages. So the first way is to go to setup and maintenance and accessing fast formulas from setup and maintenance. So recently, in 20A release, Oracle actually changed the naming format of the search. So initially, earlier it used to be manage fast formulas, and now it has become fast formulas. So if you are in 20A release, just make sure you need to search with fast formulas. If you are in 19B, you need to give manage fast formulas. You need to search with the manage fast formulas. So this is the page, fast formulas. So this is how fast formula page looks. And if you want to see the difference between predefined or like Oracle delivered ones, you can see here. So there are like I just did a blank search in my environment, and I got a like big list of fast formulas. And if you see here, under edit, all these are non-editable. So it tells no updates allowed. So these are called predefined. So these are the Oracle delivered fast formulas, and Oracle is alone is having access to these formulas. And if you see any bug or any issues with this fast formulas, you need to raise Oracle service request. So now we'll see more on the predefined, generated, and user-defined formulas. So user-defined formulas are created on the Manage Fast Formulas page. So this is the page where you can create new fast formulas. So here you can see that the document is still having managed fast formula because like if you are in 19B, just make sure you need to search with manage. If you are in 20A, just skip the manage word. And in setup and maintenance, so you can search with a fast formula, and you can go to the manage implement project, and then also you can actually try to define your own fast formulas. So that is so in this document I have given both the navigations. So the first is that under from setup and maintenance, so directly searching with the fast formula name, and the second way is to go with the implementation project. So go to manage implementation project. So this is totally so depends on how you practice. So here so I'm seeing that there are many implementation projects. So I will quickly go to the this is something financial implementation project. So I'll click on this. So generally, this implementation project will be there in all the environments. Generally, this implementation project will be used to migrate the setup information. So when you go live in your environment, I think you're already using the live system. So if you're using the live system, so for the first time migration to production, so you use it, generally we use implementation project so to migrate all the setup information from your QA environment to production. So for the first time go live, you use this implementation project, and you can use the same implementation project. And so for payroll users, so you do have a defined fast formula task, so you can go to this task to create a new fast formulas, or simply you can so this is the one way. If you don't want to do this lentil step, you can directly come to manage fast formulas, and you can create or you can read your own fast formulas.